Hey, what's going on, everybody? Welcome to the GMI Rocket Show. Today's episode number 47, which is almost 50, which is halfway to 100, which I don't know, to me feels crazy. I'm your host, Roman Zalchenko. I am a former immigration attorney turned entrepreneur. I founded a company called Laborless, which automates H-1B visa compliance, and also GMI Rocket, which brings you this show and is a digital marketing agency geared towards the immigration and global mobility industry, an industry I am very, very much fond of and love talking to people about, which of course is why we have this show. So today on episode 47, we have another lawyer turned, or not even turned entrepreneur, but lawyer and entrepreneur guest. So our guest today is Nadine Heitz, who is a practicing immigration attorney today. She's the founder of Heitz Immigration Law and so many other things. She runs an awesome Facebook group, which every immigration lawyer I talk to, I recommend them joining, which has turned into a sort of consulting business. She's launched and run other businesses in and out of the industry in the past. And I just love talking to entrepreneurs because I feel like the things that get them going help get me going and hopefully get all of you going as well. So without further ado, Nadine, thank you so much for joining and for being here. And I'm super, super excited to dive into your story.
Yeah, I'm finally here with you, talking with you. I'm so excited too. Thanks, Roman.
That's awesome. Yeah, I'm. It's cool because sometimes I really meet guests for the first time on this show. Kind of. Other times, like with you, like we've known each other. We've talked a bunch of times. We've been on panels together. But nevertheless, throughout these conversations, I always really get to learn so much more about the person. Because I mean, let's be honest. If we're talking about something on an AILA panel, I'm not going to ask you for 45 minutes about your life story. But I think that's so interesting. I think that's what everyone should be learning about. So again, thank you for being here. And I know before we kind of started, I was chatting with you. I know you're a Canadian citizen. So you said that you were born in Canada, but then your parents are German nationals. So did you grow up in Canada, in Germany, or in the US where you live now?
Right. Well, no, I most of my life was in Canada. I only came to the US in, I think 2005, we came here to live. But I did grow up in Canada. I was born in Toronto. My parents came to Canada, I want to say like about a year or two before I was born. So they were new immigrants to Canada. And I grew up speaking German fluently and, of course, English at the same time. And I even went to a German school during my childhood and learned to read and write German. And, that really was beneficial, I guess, having that second language, although it doesn't help me that much anymore now in immigration because most of my clients really aren't German. So, but it was still a good foundation. So yeah, that's kind of my background.
Did you ever spend time in Germany? I mean, if your family were recent immigrants, did you have family there or friends or anything like that?
And what's really interesting is that my family was actually from East Berlin. And at the time, they couldn't leave. It's not like now, right? The wall came down and only my grandfather was alive when the wall came down, actually. So he was the only one in my immediate family that was able to visit us in Toronto. Most of my other family on both of my parents' side had already passed away by then. So we would actually have to spend a lot of time in Germany during my youth. We would spend the whole summers there because our family couldn't visit us. So yeah, I did spend a lot of time there.
Wow, that's crazy. What was it like back then? I mean, do you have any sort of kind of vivid memories of it before the
Probably the last time I was there, I was a young teenager, I think. So yeah, I have a lot of really good memories. I mean, it was different, right? Going through Checkpoint Charlie and all these things you hear about in the movies, right? It was interesting, crossing the border and kind of feeling like you're going to be interrogated. What are you bringing in? You're not allowed to bring anything in, but when you're young and you're a child and you're visiting your family, you don't really think anything of it. But it was interesting.
So it wasn't scary, I guess. I mean, I guess if you're a
No, I
kid.
didn't feel like it was. No, I didn't feel like it was.
Wow. Yeah, that's so fascinating. And also it kind of that interrogation factor. I feel like very often as US citizens, when we travel around the world, I mean, depending on where you go, you'll definitely get questioned. But for the most part, we're pretty lucky People are, and I'm assuming as Canadian citizen, it's kind of similar, I suspect, with that passport. People are like, yeah, sure, we trust you. Whereas, coming inbound into the US, even as a visitor on a B visa, people get interrogated and questioned. And of course, they have to fill out all these forms. I feel quite lucky. So it's interesting that you had that experience as well going into Germany, even though at that time, I guess you're also a Canadian citizen.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. We take it for granted now, don't we?
We definitely do, although not anymore because travel has, with COVID really kind of ceased. And I don't take anything for granted anymore, to be honest with you. So, I'm curious too, like I love to ask this of guests, especially I think guests like you who have started multiple businesses, which I think is, certainly could be taught, but I think especially if you start off early, it's like, it's got to be something innate or that you picked up somewhere. So I'm curious, were you kind of an entrepreneurial sort of businessy type of kid, or I don't know, were your parents or anybody in your family did have a business or anything?
Yeah, actually I wasn't at all. And I think that kind of came to me a bit later in life. I graduated in Toronto with a bachelor in economics, and I wound up working in marketing and advertising and retail. I wound up just working my way through the ranks of Canada's leading department store called Eaton's. If there's any Canadians out there, they're going to know Eaton's, kind of like a Macy's equivalent. And I became Toronto advertising manager and marketing manager there. And I was an executive there for years. And, I never had my own business, but Eaton's went under. They went bankrupt. It was a whole reason, many reasons. Kind of the way of the dinosaur department stores. They started early, right? So, we were all given severance packages, and for a while I worked for their competitor. But then I decided I wanted to have my own business. And my first business was actually as a virtual assistant, which was still kind of new back then. And I realized that I could be a consultant for other businesses in marketing and, helping them not build websites, but helping them be organized and helping them market themselves. So I did that for a while. And then we discovered Florida. So the rest is kind of history there on how I came here on a TN visa, which was really amazing.
I want to dig into that a little bit because I find that really interesting. So, and this was, what year did you start your kind of virtual assistant business?
Oh gosh. My kids were just very young. So I want to say this was probably, I want to say in the late 90s. In the late 90s. Yeah.
And so, I mean, at that point, very few people or businesses really had internet. And so I feel like this is very...
Well, yeah. I was always interested in technology. That's why I love the technology group for immigration lawyers that I founded, because I had a computer before most people did. I had an IBM, that's what you had then. I had, the AOL email, and I had the Palm Pilot and all that before most of my friends and associates had it. So yeah, the virtual assistant industry was still fairly new, but it was up and coming, and it was really interesting. It was kind of it was what enabled me to spend time in Florida. We wound up, loving this little beach town here called Lake Worth Beach. And we wound up coming here on vacation, eventually buying a condo here. So we really grew to love it here. And I was just lucky that I met an immigration lawyer who hired me and brought me here on a TN visa. So that's how I came here. I wasn't even a lawyer when I came here.
Oh, wow. Okay. So, wow, there's so much to unpack there. So before we jump into that, I want to still pause on the virtual assistant business, because I think the fact that you started it so early in terms of, where the industry, the internet really was, I think it has some parallels to perhaps people in the immigration industry building technology, because it feels similarly early. I mean, look, we're flying rockets to and from the moon right now with SpaceX, but at the same time, there are some industries that are still, let's just say, a little bit more behind than that. And so I think that's scary for people, right? Like, I think when people go and consider starting a business in an industry where there might not be a lot of too much money going into it, or there might be pushback, or it might, there might not be a lot of examples of success stories, preceding. And so it's like, well, I don't know if this is going to work out. I'm curious, when you started this, first of all, it was just you, I guess, initially, right? You were you were basically a freelancer.
It was just me. I had someone help me put together a little website. I still remember the name. It was called Virtual Business Alternatives, VBA. I had a logo, and I wanted to be, I did it for a couple of years until I came here. And it, like I said, it allowed me the flexibility to work from home with my young children at the time. And I always envisioned having even a virtual office for my immigration practice when I first started, but I soon realized that I liked the interaction with clients, and I felt like I wanted more of a hybrid of both, which is kind of where I'm at now, I think.
Yeah, and it feels like a lot of companies are kind of there now as well. They're learning. I mean, there are always going to be some people who want full in person and full virtual. But so when you and how did you get your first kind of few clients? Because again, this was something new. I imagine you're approaching businesses and you're like, "Hey, I could be a virtual assistant," and they're like, "What's the internet? I don't even know what you're talking about."
Right. I joined, there's actually a Virtual Assistants Association. I also joined a professional organizing association where I became a virtual assistant to some of these professional organizers. And actually, that was kind of interesting because later on, while I was going to law school, I also started a professional organizing business here in Florida with a friend of mine. So, and I just networked. I met other business owners in the community. I mean, Toronto is amazing for networking. I knew some people already, and I did a lot of networking. So that's basically how I got my clients.
That's awesome. Joining organizations this is why, like AILA or Facebook groups or other organizations, just where people congregate and talk and where you can sort of share what you're doing could be really cool.
Right.
That's really awesome. And so when you moved down to Florida on a TN visa, what was the TN for? Because you said you weren't yet an immigration lawyer.
No.
Yeah.
So this is really kind of strange how things happen. We were on vacation in Florida, and my husband actually saw a commercial saying, "Do you need a green card? Come and have a free consultation." So he said to me, "Nadine, let's go check out this law office. It's in Boca. Let's see if maybe there's some way we can, live here and spend more time here." Because we were just kind of going back and forth when we could. So we went for this consultation, and it turned out that they were looking for someone to manage the law firm. So I actually got a job offer from that law firm.
Wow.
And within 3 months of that experience, we went back to Toronto. He did my whole TN package as a management consultant. Now, I know my immigration lawyer colleagues hearing that are going to go, "Oh my God, the dreaded management consultant, the hardest TN to get in on." And believe me, it was hard because I was actually denied at first because of a technicality in the way the employment offer was written. And I had to go and leave the border office and get my petitioner, my employer, to correct it. And then I had to go back and kind of talk my way into why I should be accepted for this visa.
Wow.
So luckily I got through because, my husband and kids were all in the minivan waiting for us to go through. So it was my first immigration experience that was pretty daunting. And it was pretty horrible, when you're standing there, right? And you're at the mercy of this CBP officer who looks at your package prepared and says, "No, sorry, you don't qualify. No, management consultant. No, goodbye." And I'm like, why? So that was shocking.
It's crazy that you do all of that from, like you said, you drive up and you just, because when you file from, within the country with USCIS, you're home, you're waiting, you get and then here it's like you packed up assuming it was going to happen. And
I knew nothing about immigration. I knew nothing about Canadian immigration. I knew nothing about US immigration. I mean, my background was marketing and advertising and retail. And, I learned pretty quick that this is not something that is easy. And, later on, I actually wound up getting an H-1B and making the lottery. I think we renewed the TN once, and then we converted it to H-1B. So I went through all kinds of, paths, and eventually we all got our green cards and citizenship. So here we are.
That's unbelievable. It's so crazy and really cool to see so many immigration lawyers who kind of one way or another went through the immigration process themselves, because, maybe right. And then it's easier to empathize with and kind of understand your clients and what they're going through. So when you came here to work for the law firm, obviously it sounds like you ran the law firm. You probably did some marketing and PR, and obviously you were always tech savvy. So I understood that you kind of also started to kind of implement tech tools and sort of modernize the firm.
I did, because they were using Excel spreadsheets to track all their cases. And again, this was 2005. I was there for many years, and the practice management systems like the Clios and the Practice Panthers weren't really all up and running. I think I looked up Clio once when they started, and maybe, I don't know if you know, but it just wasn't popular then. There were some, and we did look into some practice management options, and they were so expensive that I created my own. We had some contacts with some Lynn University students, because we were right near Lynn University in Boca in their IT department, and we hired one of them, and we created our own setup where we could track our cases, track our notes, so that everybody knew what everybody was doing. Because before that, you had a file and you wrote in paper in the file, and nobody knew when somebody called what was going on, right? I wanted to be able to go to the computer when all the staff were, taking client calls, and know what the latest step was. So we implemented our own system.
That's great. That's amazing. And did you have a name for the system? I'm just curious.
We did, and I can't even remember if we just called it the whatever system. It wasn't anything fancy.
Yeah, that's so cool though. And so you implemented the system. I mean, obviously, eventually you went to law school. Did you go to law school because because how long did you work at this firm? Like 5 or 6 or more?
It was about 5 years. Now the firm, the owner eventually retired, and near the end of that, I already had it in my mind that I wanted to be an immigration lawyer. I knew immigration inside out from the running of the firm side. And I learned so much from the paralegals and the legal assistants, and I already had a really good knowledge of immigration law, because it does rub off on you, right? I mean, you spend 5 years, and you're talking, and even though I wasn't a paralegal in that role, I learned a lot. So I knew I wanted to be an immigration lawyer. But living here in Florida and still wanting to have, some kind of a job, I knew I couldn't just pick up and go to law school full time. So I did a search, thinking that there's got to be an online law school somewhere out there. And indeed there is, and it's California. So my degree is through California, an amazing school, Northwestern California University of Law, NWCU. And I still had to go and write the bar exam like everybody else. I had to go to California and do it. So it's basically a JD degree that you can do totally online. You still have to, pass the bar. But I knew that I could do immigration law in Florida with my California license. I had no interest in any other kind of law. So I set out to do that, and it worked.
It's something that when I was in law school, I always loved to travel and like just had this idea of living in different places. And of course, about the bar exam, but I think that they don't, at least in my experience, I wasn't so clear on the fact that when you take a bar in most practice areas, you have to practice in that state. And I just absolutely happened to stumble upon immigration law myself during law school. And only eventually when I was looking into sort of, well, how does this work to get a job? I was like, wait a minute. I can take the bar exam in any state and effectively practice in all 50 states. Like, I think that immigration law should really sell that as a benefit.
Yeah.
We would probably get more lawyers that way into the bar.
Absolutely. I'm always telling, I'm actually an administrator on our law school Facebook page. And, students are always asking, because the students at this school are so awesome. You've got, people that most of them are in second career choices. There's doctors, there's a lot of police officers, people in law enforcement that want a law degree. And many of them don't even want to take the bar. They just want that JD degree. Maybe it's going to help them be promoted in their other job. But so many times they ask, well, what kind of law can I practice if I'm living in, whatever, right? With my California degree. And I'm always telling them, immigration, you can do it anywhere.
They're lucky to have you to give them that guidance. That's so cool. So you graduated. So you were taking law. You were taking online law school courses. Of course, you graduated with a degree, took the bar, and of course, at this point, were you still working at the firm, or were you?
Yeah, the firm wound up closing because he retired and he gave his cases to another lawyer. But just before that, I was hired by one of our clients who we did an L1 visa. He was from Finland and he came here and he started a property management company. So I launched that business with him right after he got approved for his visa. And we had an office also in Boca, then in Deerfield Beach. We had a beautiful office. We had 10 realtors, and it was really fun. And that was basically my job the entire time during my law school studies. And luckily, it gave me some flexibility too, with taking the time off I needed to travel to go and take the bar exam and all that. And that job even kind of wound down because then he didn't want to run the business anymore. And the timing worked out that when that job was kind of over, I was ready to start my immigration law firm.
Okay, so before we get to the immigration law firm, two other things I wanted to ask you about. Number one, you started a bar prep company.
Right.
During all of this.
Right.
Yeah,
during law school. Yeah.
So can you talk a little bit about sort of how that came up?
Yeah. So during law school, it was very obvious that as we were preparing, for the bar exam, keep in mind that this law school is a 4-year program because you're doing it online, but you're working all throughout the year. There is no summer off or anything. So it's 4 solid years and the bar exam. So near the last 2 years, I realized that, studying for the bar exam, I really want to know, what are the legal issues tested the most? Like, there are so many definitions, right? There's about 15 subjects. And when you look at the California state website for the bar exam, yes, you can get all the previous questions. I'm talking about only the essay part, okay? The essays. And California is known for having one of the hardest bar exams too. So we were all, pretty concerned about passing that. So, but when you go to their website, they have the essays just in a big file. So they'll have the 6 essays for a given year, question, student model answer. They pick 2 student answers that are really great, that they feel, exemplify what you should be looking to score well on. And it's a 300-page file, and you have to scroll through it and find the subject, and it's just not organized in a database of essays. So what I did, and I worked with a fellow law student, Angela, to produce this, we just got to talking and said, let's develop our own database of all these essays, and let's track them by subject, and let's go further, and within each subject, track them by the legal issues. So, if the subject is contracts, well, there's negligence, there's this, there's that, right? Well, torts, negligence, whatever, right? So we tracked all that in a spreadsheet. And then we realized that we could sell this because other students would find this valuable, and it doesn't exist out there. So that's what we did. And it's still running today. It's a subscription-based service. You sign up, you have access for 6 months. And a lot of our people who sign up, they do renew, especially if they don't pass the first time, they renew for next time. So that's still going.
That's so cool. Did you have to get a developer? Because I was checking out the website earlier. Did you have to get a developer to build that? I mean, and did you have to pay money for that? I guess, right?
Yeah, and yeah, we did. We were lucky that I had a contact from my virtual assistant days, a Canadian web designer. The company is called Back to Front, and they did the website and they did the back end of the actual database. And it worked out well because they gave us a really good rate. They're still giving us a pretty good deal on it. I'm actually running it on my own now. My partner Angela, she's so busy. She's doing estate planning in California, so I'm pretty well running it on my own now.
That's so cool. That's amazing. I admire you just being like, you know what? There's a problem. We have a solution for it. Let's go build it. Let's do it. I feel like that's honestly, genuinely kind of scary for people. What if I mess up? What about this? What about that? I mean, I'm sure you all had your doubts and you talked through things, but like you did it, which is super cool. Yeah. I want to just make one note to people listening or watching. I should have probably said this earlier, but please shout yourself out, say hello, tell us where you're watching from or tuning in from, and of course, ask Nadine any questions if you want. So we do have a couple of comments here. Marianne, hi Marianne. As always, thank you for watching and for commenting. Said kudos for management consultant extraordinaire, which to your point now is really kind of tough. So it's really awesome that you got through that. And then Marianne also just said database tracking legal issues, brilliant, especially for the bar exam. I mean, genuinely, I think law students, and it's not super expensive, because you also have to keep in mind there are law students. Although I suppose to your point, at your school, people may have had other careers, but I assume anybody in California can use this, right? So
yeah, anybody taking the California bar exam can absolutely use this. It's a great study tool. It's super affordable. It just makes studying for the essays so much easier because you can search the essay. So, if you're having trouble in one area, you can find all the essays in that area easily, rather than trying to look through hundreds and hundreds of pages on the bar exam website to find the one essay you want.
So cool. I love it. Okay, so you built that. It's running. You took the bar. You passed the bar. Where did the professional organizing business come in?
Well, that was also done during law school. I did a lot of things all at the same time. That must have come after bar issues, I think. Because this was during the time, so I was working for the property management company, and a colleague of mine at that company, we both loved being organized. Like, she would organize the office cabinets and all the people's drawers and everything. And I saw a talent in her. Patrice is her name. She's still a good friend of mine today. And I said to her, professional organizing is a big thing right now. Like, people are hiring professional organizers. We should start a business. I'll do the marketing and I'll do all the back end, like the website and everything. And you could do the actual physical organizing. Because honestly, I didn't want to be out there doing the work. I just wanted to be, creating the content for the website, writing the blogs. I love doing that. It's kind of my way of my creativity. So we started it. It's called Dream Home Organizing. And we got a logo, we did a nice website, and we got tons of clients. They just found us online through Google searches. And she got so burnt out, honestly, that she couldn't even do it anymore. She was getting so busy. And at the time I was, ready to finish with starting my immigration business soon. So we just gave it up. I think we did it for about 2 years.
Wow. So was it lucrative? I mean, was it a good business?
Yeah, it was. I wouldn't, I think in order for it to be really lucrative, you have to have a whole bunch of organizers. And I certainly could have taken it to that level because it's hard for one person to do it all. It's hard work. We had some crazy stories of some crazy houses she went to. And oh my God, sometimes I accompanied her because sometimes they wanted 2 people. Like, we helped this lady move and set up her whole kitchen, and and then you had like the semi-hoarders who like didn't want to throw anything away, and oh my God. So it was fun. But yeah, I just didn't really have, it was something to do as a little sideline.
I love it. But look, all of these, when I was with one of my friends from law school, we started a business where she would teach cocktail. She teaches cocktail making, craft cocktails, right? And I teach improv, and so we combined it, and we built a class where we'd come on site to companies and like birthday parties and things like that. We set up this beautiful table where everyone has their sort of cocktail. It's almost like a bar setup. You got the mat, the shaker, the spoons, and everything. And she would teach them how to make a craft cocktail, like an old fashioned. And then as they get kind of a little boozy or a little liquored up, then we do improv games together. It's like a 2 or 3 hour class. It's so much fun. And it was just one of those things, to your point, where it was a side business. But the reason I'm bringing that up is that, number one, it wasn't scalable unless we sort of took things in a different direction. But we definitely, you still learn so much. You learn about dealing with clients and the marketing, and like building the logo, building the website. And so there's so much value in building these kind of small businesses along the way, even if they don't become the business.
Yeah, and I think it kind of takes the fear out of your next venture, right? Because if you realize that you've done it once and you kind of know the ropes, you know what you need the website, you need the logo, you need this, you need that, then you're ready to go. So by the time I launched my immigration practice, I knew exactly what I wanted, I knew what I needed, and it was that wasn't the hard part for me at all, so it was fun.
I just wanted to show one comment here from Ana Carolina saying, I logged in with the intention to listen as a background, but in a few minutes, you guys got my full attention. Aww. Nadine is brilliant. Thank you. And Marianne, thanks for your comment too. I do have an Instagram page for it, but that'll be part of a separate conversation. So you launched your law practice, and of course you've always had this sort of tech bend to you, and you were up to date on the sort of latest tools. I kind of, I want to start getting into sort of how you became this tech person in the immigration space. I mean, you talk about it, you've started this Facebook group, there's a lot of success that you're building around this. And of course, you're helping a lot of other immigration lawyers, with their practice from a tech perspective. When you launched your firm, did you launch it day one with sort of technology in mind before you even had clients? Yeah,
and by then it was so much easier because there were so many apps to choose from. So I started off from day one with form software and practice management software. I think I started off with e-immigration, Serenade at the time. I may have even tried some others before that, but when you don't have a whole lot of clients in the beginning, it does allow you a bit of time to change systems without it being too much of a pain, right? What I hear now is that, I have so many clients, I don't want to, migrate into a new system and all this. So I tried out so many different apps and software programs, and I really realized that it's hard to find the one that does it all, right? Mm-hmm. Like it doesn't even exist. I don't feel like one program or one app does it all. So I don't mind using a bunch of different apps and programs as long as I can tie them together and as long as I feel like I'm getting the most from each one. So my journey from Serenade, I think I tried Clio, I tried Practice Panther, and I tried lots of different immigration form software, Prima. I know you had James Betzel on the other day. I listened to his story, also an amazing story. I'm using DocketWise right now, and I'm using Monday because Monday.com, which I know you're familiar with, not everybody might be, but I realized that in order to really get what I want, I think I had to customize it. So that's kind of where I'm at.
So can we talk about that a little bit? Because I mean, you started listing a few of these platforms, and to the extent that you can share, I think something that could be really, really useful to people is sort of understanding, okay, well, what does Nadine's tech stack look like? What are the tools that you use, or at least some of the tools, just because there's so many, and I've been part of these panels before, and to be fair, I don't practice anymore, so I don't know every single tool that can benefit a practicing attorney. But at this point, we've all heard that, hey, you should look at tech. And I think what's really helpful to people is that next question of, sure, but which one?
Right. And that's right. And that's what we discuss a lot on my Facebook group, as you know, my Technology for Immigration Practitioners Facebook group, because that is the key question. What should I use? And it's really hard to say you must use this, right? Because it's going to be different depending on your practice size, depending on your, even what type of, whether you do more family or whether you do more business or more removal cases. So that's what started the coaching business that I also have now through my technology for immigration lawyers site. And that's been helpful to people so that I can spend, a one-on-one session with them going over what they have now and what I would maybe recommend based on what I'm seeing you have now, and then showing them a little bit about what I'm using. Doesn't mean you have to use that, but at least opening your eyes to some possibilities, because people are using their software, but they're not understanding the full capability or the full potential, and they don't even realize what they can do, or they're just frustrated because they don't know how to use it, right?
Definitely. And if you go to, the help center or even someone like Monday, for example, they have a lot of use cases about how different types of companies have set up, their internal systems with Monday. It's still, if you're an immigration law firm, you might still feel like, well, I'm not quite this, but I'm not quite that. So maybe there's nothing perfect for me. Having somebody
having from scratch, right? Because there was no perfect template in Monday for an immigration practice management system. So I created mine from scratch, and coincidentally, it started during when COVID first started last March. I realized that I was using Practice Panther and I was using Forms software, but I wanted a better way to really keep track of everything, especially now that so many of us were remote. I was working at home. So Monday was great for that. I was able to kind of design it the way I wanted to. And now I'm super excited that I'm actually going to be able to roll it out to other immigration lawyers. But before I finish that, I'm refining what I'm doing and working with a Monday specialist to really kind of take it to the next level and be able to show that and roll that out as templates to others.
Wow. So can you, just to dive into that a little bit, so you basically reached out to Monday and said, look, here's how I'm using your company or your platform. And there are a lot of people in my sort of practice area who would love to do this. Can we make it an official sort of template? Is that kind of how it is?
Well,
or
I became a Monday partner first so that I can then offer, templates to others. But it's not Monday itself that's working with me. I actually hired a Monday, I call him a Monday specialist. He's a computer guy. I'm working with him through Upwork, and we do Zoom conferences and we share screens. So I basically showed him my system that I have now and said, I want to improve this. Here's some improvements I want to make. So he's working with me to make those improvements. And then I said, and I want to be able to roll this out to others so that I can, share the templates and they populate their data into it. So that's what I'm working on now, because what I was finding is every time I did a coaching session and showed everyone my Monday setup and said, look, this is what I'm doing, you can do this too. They all, afterwards said, yeah, but I don't have the time to set this up. Like you invented, like I don't want to reinvent it all from scratch. And, at the end of the session, I'm realizing, yeah, people want the setup. They want the setup done. Right. Yep. And so I can hand it to you. You can modify it then, but I'm giving you a framework, because to start from scratch is really hard.
Totally. Yeah, that's so cool. And I think also goes to your sort of entrepreneurial instinct of like, hold on a second, there's a problem. Right. I have a potential solution for it. Let's go. Let's go.
Exactly. Right.
Can you share a little bit more about what else you use potentially in your firm, whether it's for case management or there's so much more. I mean, there's billing software, there's intake software. So.
Well, the other component is finding a good CRM, right? A customer relationship management program, or a leads, or a sales pipeline system. And again, I experimented with so many. I was using Lexicata, and then before they got bought by Clio for Clio Grow. And I like that, but I looked at so many others, and I know that a lot of these all-in-one immigration platforms are adding CRM components. Like I know DocketWise has added a CRM now, And, Camp Legal is another one. They have a CRM component. But I just didn't find that they were as customizable and as robust as I wanted them to be. So I tried creating my own in Monday, and it is doable. But then I discovered this software called Dubsado. And I think they're based in California. It is mainly a CRM. You could use it as practice management, but it's really not ideal for that. But it's geared towards people in the creative industry. So photographers, wedding planners, event planners, they are usually signing up people. They need to send out what they call it a proposal. They get a contract signed and they do payments. So I'm using Dubsado for the intake, where I can easily send out my quote to clients remotely, and they get one email, and it's like an all-in-one. They get one email from me with a link after my consultation. They're able to accept my quote if they click yes on what they see. They're able to sign the contract right away, and they're able to make the deposit payment right away just from this one email. And what I really like about it is it looks great. It looks like they're viewing a landing page rather than opening up a PDF attachment that's boring. Like, it has pictures of us from the law firm in it. It has my assistants, their smiling faces. This is your team. Here's Gabe. Here's the team. Here's me. And when they open the proposal, it looks more. It actually opens in a web, a new browser tab if you're looking at it on your computer. But it has a little click PDF download button if you wanted to download it as well. So it's all web-based. It's easy so far for my clients to use. And once they sign up the case, then I move them into Monday, which is my practice management system. And I have it connected with Zapier. So, the Zap actually populates the basic name and email and phone number into Monday, so I don't have to rekey that again. And then after that, I'm using DocketWise for the immigration forms, and a couple of other tools like Pipefile. I've talked a lot about that. I've done a webinar on Pipefile with another immigration attorney for document collection. It's really an amazing tool for that. Some other little things like Calendly for calendaring. But as long as I can connect some of these things together with Zapier, then I don't mind using different apps if they can talk to each other.
Yeah, and that's huge, and that's sort of like this API revolution almost. But of course, where companies might not have direct API integrations, to your point, Zapier is a way. So for anyone listening, it's Zapier, Zapier.com, right? Yeah. By the way, this episode is not sponsored by any of these platforms.
I always tell people that just because I say it's good doesn't mean I'm telling you to use it.
That's right. Yeah. So, but if anyone is listening from Zapier or from Monday or from Dubsado, I will leave you my address and Nadine's at the end. Anyway, just kidding. So you've got this really interesting, robust setup. You also are helping people with it. Talk a little bit about. Can you talk a little bit about your Facebook group? I still meet, to me, I'm like, oh, well, yeah, everybody. But you have about 1,000 members in it, right? There are still many people there are people who are tech savvy or interested in tech, but who haven't heard of it. Some of them might just not be very active on Facebook, so they may not realize it's there. Can you talk about because again, I think to me, this is yet another entrepreneurial endeavor. Sure, it's not a business, but it is something that you manage and you have to control, and you sort of set the tone and things like that. You've done things because of it. For example, your coaching business. Why did you start it? Like, how did you start, and sort of how has it grown since then?
Right. Well, I started it because I was already a member of a whole bunch of other immigration Facebook groups. You know them, they're all out there, right? I was a member of about 3 or 4 of them. And I love these groups because we share so much information about how to, and, immigration law is as the books can't tell you everything. So much is based on experiences and trends, right? Trends with certain policies and procedures and breaking news and all that. So when technology discussions came up on these various groups, I felt like there was a need for one group to focus on these types of discussions, because everybody was out there asking, well, what do you think of this app? And, can you help me figure out how to do this or how to do that, or workflows, automations, all these things. So I decided that I needed to start a group, and it was going to be based on, focused on just immigration lawyers, because I felt we had our own unique challenges and there were enough of us. We are national, right? We all practice the same type of immigration law across the country. So it's, we're connected. Like, I know you're in New York, I'm in Florida. We have, colleagues in California, everywhere. So we're all sharing the same trials and tribulations with technology. And it just took off. It just took off without me having to really promote it very much, just through hearsay.
And so you started it did you invite people over and say, hey, I started this group? And then did it kind of balloon from there? Because now I watch the numbers go up and up kind of on a daily basis.
Yeah. Like I said, I really haven't really promoted it much. Every now and then a subject might come up in another group and I might mention something, or somebody else mentions something, or, people find me usually through somebody telling them on one of the other groups, hey, why don't you go and join Nadine's group, because you can probably get some information there. So it's really, really word of mouth that has kind of spread it that way. And I like that, because it's not something I'm really going to advertise to the general public, because I only admit immigration lawyers. I have questions that are asked when you join, and you've got to be an immigration lawyer basically to join.
That's so cool. I'm curious, internationally, do you have any immigration lawyers that practice in the UK or anywhere else?
A few in Canada. I really haven't tapped into that market yet, but it is interesting, because I've listened to some of your episodes when you've talked to, there was the guy in Germany that was, of course, what I was interested in, right? Who developed the visa company. And there's so many people out there. It's amazing what they're doing. So I really haven't tapped into that.
Yeah. And also Canada has and I think the name is spot on, because it's technology for immigration practitioners, which is really inclusive, because Canada has non-lawyers that practice immigration law, right? As consultants. Yeah. And a lot of countries have that.
Something I'm going to be getting into as well. I actually studied Canadian immigration law about a year ago. I undertook that because I'm Canadian. I'm also eligible to take that exam to be a licensed Canadian immigration practitioner. I don't have to be a lawyer in Canada to do that, as you just said. They have a different setup for that. So that'll be something I'll be adding as well. And, because I do want to spend a bit more time in Canada during the summer, so I'll be able to, work on that while I'm there.
That's awesome. I have friends in Canada, and now I've met so many people through LinkedIn and through so many other platforms, and I just am itching to go back, and I can't wait for the borders to open. So
soon, very soon. Yeah, we're working on it.
Yeah, for sure. So I'm curious, what do you mentioned, I'd love to hear what kind of guests are working on next. So you mentioned that you're working on this sort of Monday platform that you are going to be launching out. Is that going to be basically for purchase, for sale, or I guess license? Immigration lawyer?
I'm working out how to manage it all, but yes, it will be something that you can purchase the template, and I'll work out something where I can set up one-on-one with you to explain how to use it, and some follow-up sessions, because in my own coaching I found that there are some immigration lawyers that they might do one session with me, they'll do a follow-up. I had one recently set up her own Monday system. Actually, two of them have set up their own Monday boards with, based on kind of what I've done. And they've been able to do it themselves, which is fabulous. I've done some follow-ups with one of those. But again, there are many lawyers that don't want to take the time to set it up themselves. So this is going to be something that will allow them to fully customize and have a system that meets our needs, right? Because it's frustrating when platforms like Clio only give you the options for case status as open, pending, and closed. Those are the only options you have. You can't customize them. You can't even change the names. You can't even add more stages, right? Our cases go through stages that we want to track, like the receipts stage, the biometric stage, the interview stage, right? I want to know at a given point in time where my cases are within all of these, what I call stages. And that's what Monday allows me to do. It allows me to track, even if I have hundreds of cases, I can just scroll through my Monday boards and see, oh yeah, where are the red flags, right? Why is this case not gotten a receipt? Or why has this case been pending so long and it's now beyond processing time? So this is what Monday enables me to do. It enables me to know quickly where the red flags are, how to stay on top of deadlines, because it's set up to show me what I want to see. So that's why I've done it.
I have a question that hopefully, I don't know if you have an answer for it really, but I mean, it honestly feels like you just go from win to win to win to win. So I'm curious. I mean, along the way, you've started so many companies, and generally speaking, there are challenges and there are, downtimes and downturns and things like that. I mean, have you experienced any sort of kind of bumps in the road or worse with any of the businesses? I'm just curious that like are noteworthy to you, maybe that you learned from or something, just because, a lot of times we learn from other people's necessarily their mistakes. Let's just put it that way.
Yeah. It could be that, I think you have to come to the realization that you can't do it all alone, that you need to have, you need to hire other people to work with you and to build things. And I had two businesses that I had partnerships on, and one of them was the organizing business. The other was the bar issues for the bar exam studies. And I really like that. And I think it would be great to find a partner or something, that I could work with on some of my future endeavors. I am collaborating and networking a lot with people that like Jared Jascott, and he's amazing. He's founded TangoBot, and he's got some innovative ideas, and he's got this idea of collaborating with other, as you know, right? We talked about that a bit online, collaborating with other immigration lawyers, building things in the future. So I think that in order to really have something take off, I think it's great to have some partnerships and collaboration like that, and that's something that I'd like to kind of work on in the future.
Yeah, definitely. I couldn't agree more. None of us are able to do everything alone. We have our strengths and we have our weaknesses. And it's like, as soon as you recognize your weaknesses, find somebody who can complement you and whose strengths
it makes for a slow process, right? People say to me that, well, when is your system going to be ready? Well, it's because I'm doing it myself, right? And I'm running my law practice. So it's not like I have a lot of time to work on this, but it's challenging. So I'm not going to say it's all rosy. It's certainly got its ups and downs. And I think sometimes it just takes a lot longer to get somewhere when you are, somewhat limited with your resources.
Yeah, no, 100%. I mean, that's sage advice, I think, for anybody who's launching a business or runs a law practice. A lot of times maybe people don't want to hire, they want to do everything themselves. It's funny because I have had conversations with people where they say, you know what, some people sell the idea that they're doing everything themselves, even in a law practice, as a positive. But I've heard this idea of like, well, I don't want you to do everything. If I'm paying you and you're doing the photocopying, that's, to me, it's inefficient. And so, there is a place for bringing people in. There's a place for utilizing technology. And I think, to your point, it makes things faster, it makes things better, and it's probably less stressful for the kind of business owner.
Absolutely. And that's why I'm such a big proponent of using technology, because the more you can automate things and the less you can enter data more than once, it's going to make everybody's life in your law firm easier, right? Because you're going to cut down on errors. You're going to have workflows that automatically email your clients. Like we have automatic status reports that go through Monday, generated on the stage of the case, so that when a case is pending with USCIS, our clients get status reports to notify them. And it's basically on autopilot until we change the stage of the case. So this is what's going to save you a lot of time, and it allows me to do some of these other things if I don't have to spend as much time on, working with the staff on some of the manual tasks, right?
So what do you think where do you think the industry is going, sort of, from a technology perspective? I mean, we're seeing a proliferation of tools popping up. Obviously, API and sort of connectivity capabilities between existing tools. There's a lot more venture capital and like kind of the DIY options, if you will. What do you see? Like, what's interesting to you and what's exciting for you in terms of where the industry is going?
I'm really fascinated by these DIY, companies like, that offer, we'll put together your whole marriage green card case for, $500, and you don't have to, go to a law firm, and it's great. And I'm sure it works for some, but of course there are complications with so many cases that they often do need a lawyer. But I feel like there's an in-between. A full service law firm is, of course, going to hold your hand every step of the way. And there really are people that can't afford that, right? They're never, ever going to spend the money on a full service law firm for their green card case. So they'll go to these services that are cheap, but maybe they're not getting all their questions asked, or they're going to have some complications. So I'm kind of interested in what the middle could be, something that is a little bit more affordable, yet uses the automations that we now have, access to, and still has the legal advice that is needed for when those stumbling blocks or when those roadblocks come up. So I think there's a future there. And I also think there's a future in, as you said, the whole API, every system talking to each other, right? That's got to happen, because we can't just have one system only being the one we use. We know we're going to use different things together. There's lots going on. There's so much going on.
I love it. No, definitely. I agree. And I think still data will live in silos, and that's okay sometimes. But I think especially on the business immigration side, a lot of people are talking about, well, listen, if your project management platform is connected to your personnel platform, which is connected to your immigration platform, maybe you could arrange talent in different parts of the world based on upcoming projects and, plan business visas accordingly. And there is potentially a lot more that can be done if we had the data intelligently in one place. To your point, is there ever going to be like the one umbrella company that handles all this information? I doubt it. Let's be honest. I doubt it, because and you know what the reality is.
That's what everybody's searching for. Everybody wants that. And there is a trend now for the companies like the DocketWise, like the Prima.law. There's a trend now for these companies that started out doing only immigration forms, right? They have now added the ability for invoicing. They've added the ability for CRMs. They've added all these components, but I still feel like I wish they would focus more on having the most perfect immigration form software before they venture on to adding all these other things, because I feel like it's a race to win on being the all-in-one. Because there are competitors out there like Camp Legal and AI Law with Nutranet that are fairly new and that are offering the all-in-ones that so many people want. But I don't know. I'm just so far. I just haven't found that perfect all-in-one yet. Maybe it's going to come. I don't know.
Yeah, agreed. Maybe it's going to come, and we'll see. We'll see what happens. We've got a comment here from Shiv, who I know is, thank you, Shiv, as always, for watching, and is big immigration tech founder as well. Firms should consider building a data warehouse to consolidate data from multiple sources and leverage it. So exactly. I mean, in reality, you connect different platforms to one another. You can also build a layer on top of all these platforms, connect data, and sort of make decisions.
They should all have the same naming conventions. This isn't something that's my idea. I know Jared Jascott has talked about this. This is a passion of his that he's working on. Why does one company call it this and another call it that, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, if you call it a number and the other one calls it alien number, like you've got a mismatch there, right? In the naming convention you're using, right? If Clio's address field does not have an apartment box for the apartment, Yet the USCIS forms do require a separate box for the apartment. Whenever you migrate your data from Clio to the forms software, you have to manually move the apartment into the apartment field. That's ludicrous, right? And these are the things that I have complained about to the software providers. And sometimes they listen, and sometimes maybe they can't, or they're limited. But I'm constantly giving them suggestions for feature improvements. So I'll just keep doing that.
Please do. And one thing that I would sort of note on that topic is, as a provider myself of software to immigration lawyers or anybody, I always recommend to people, reach out to your software providers. If we don't have something that you don't have, or if there's some sort of a bug that it could be that it's just, we haven't thought of it yet. So let us know what you want. Give us the suggestions. I mean, in my view, this is the great thing about working with small companies. They could get on the call with you, understand what you're looking for, and potentially build it.
Yeah, and that's why I love small companies like Pipefile. That I work with the owners so much for so many improvements, because immigration lawyers weren't really using that. And there's many of them now that love it, because he has listened and he has actually put into place so many of these suggestions that a number of us have made to him, and he listens. So it's great. Just, you got to ask, right? You never know if they'll be receptive, but you got to ask.
Absolutely. So I thank you. I mean, this has been so interesting, and I feel like you and I can go on forever to talk about, especially specifics. So, for folks who want to maybe reach out to you, I mean, your law firm is heitzimmigrationlaw.com. But of course, definitely, and I'm saying this personally, to immigration lawyers and other practitioners out there, join the Facebook group, TIP, Technology for Immigration
Practitioners, or TIP, right. And the website is tiplawyers.com.
Cool. And so, I also definitely recommend folks to connect with you directly on, I guess, is Facebook or LinkedIn, whatever is better for you.
Facebook or LinkedIn,
Perfect. So, and I kind of like to end on maybe a fun or more interesting question, I suppose. You mentioned that you were kind of traveling to and from Canada before you actually finally moved to the US, I guess, full time. I'm curious, sort of, what was the one thing that drove you really to move to Florida, other than the nice weather?
Well, that's really the only thing, I'm sorry to say. But yeah, it really was the weather. And, it's funny because my husband never wanted to live in the United States. But, he's originally from Trinidad. So when he saw Florida, especially South Florida, it reminded him of the Caribbean. So he fell in love with it, and I fell in love with it too, because it was warm. I can't stand the cold, even though I did grow up in Toronto all my life. Can't take those cold winters anymore. So we just love the lifestyle, the ease of everything here. We don't mind it being hot. We're not, some people can't take the heat, at least yet. It hasn't bothered me yet. So yeah, because Canada's a great country. I mean, we still love it there, and we still spend a lot of time there. But it's just, I can't take those winters anymore.
Totally. I definitely understand that. Well, thank you, Nadine, so much. This has been really, really interesting and inspiring, and makes me feel lazy. I feel like I need to start 2 or 3 more companies so I could catch up.
You've got enough going, I'm sure, with your podcast and everything. You're busy.
Definitely. And speaking of which, you also have a podcast. I don't know if you're, and that's
it's all on my website. Yeah, you can listen to the episodes on my website. We have a blog. You can sign up for my newsletter on the website as well. So just go to the website.
Perfect. Awesome. Nadine, thank you so much. Have a really wonderful weekend. It is 4th of July weekend. So
yeah, you too.
Happy 4th of July. Also, happy Canada Day, which just passed. So
yes, absolutely. Just yesterday. Yeah.
A lot to celebrate. So Nadine, thank you again so much. Really appreciate your time.
Roman. Great. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you all so much for joining. This hour absolutely flew by.
It did. It flew by.
Thank you all so much for joining. I really appreciate it. Stick around for next week. We're going to have a really great show. with another special guest, another immigration lawyer who's doing entrepreneurial things in the tech space. In the meantime, if you are watching this live, especially, have an awesome weekend. If it's a long weekend for you, please do enjoy it. And stay safe, stay warm or cool, depending on where you are. And see you all next week. Peace out.